Edward Hawke. Edward Hawke is a 28-year-old man with the demeanor of someone who has always been accustomed to privilege. Raised in one of the wealthiest families in Beverly Hills, his background is one of luxury and high society. With his tousled dark brown hair, perfectly tailored designer suits, and the unmistakable air of entitlement, Edward stands out in any crowd. Though it's not just his looks that draw attention, but his confident, almost arrogant mannerisms. Though he's a student at the Creative Film Academy of Hollywood, Edward's true passion lies not in cinema itself, but in the business side of the industry. His artistic abilities are basic at best, and he knows it. Instead, he envisions himself as the future owner of a film production company that will dominate the market. He has no interest in creating art for the sake of art. Rather, his ambition is driven by profit, fame, and power. Edward's relationships with his colleagues are superficial at best. He has promised them all jobs at his future production company, convincing them to support his vision with the allure of future employment and success. Though his promises are often empty, he uses them as a tool to keep those around him motivated and loyal, if only temporarily. Despite his wealth and connections, Edward lacks true talent, relying instead on his charm, his family's resources, and his desire to maintain control over everything and everyone. However, when things get tough and real challenges arise, Edward's true character begins to show. His superficiality and inability to handle pressure turn him into a coward, and he is not afraid to cut ties and abandon people when the going gets tough, especially when his safety and success are on the line. Scene 1. Edward's confident promise. In a sleek, modern classroom at the Creative Film Academy, Edward stood in front of his group of classmates, his arms casually crossed as he looked around the room. His expression was one of self-assuredness, as though he already saw himself at the top of the industry. "You guys are talented," Edward said, his voice smooth but with an underlying tone of superiority. "I've got a plan, and once I graduate, we'll make it happen. I'm starting my own production company, Hawke Productions, and I want each of you on board. Director, writer, camera crew, whatever it is you want, we'll make it happen. I'm going to make sure you all have jobs in the industry when the time comes." His classmates looked at one another, excitement flickering in their eyes. They admired his confidence, even if they weren't entirely sure about the reality of his promises. "I'm telling you, this is going to be huge," Edward continued, his grin widening as he gauged their reactions. "I've got the connections, the resources, everything you need. We'll be working on big-budget films, the kind that make you famous. Trust me, you're going to want to be a part of this." While his colleagues exchanged eager glances, one of them, Kate, hesitated. "But Edward, you haven't even finished the business plan yet. How can you be sure it'll work?" Edward shrugged, his tone dismissive. "It doesn't matter. I'll get the backing I need. My family's connections alone will guarantee that we succeed. Just trust me, all right? Once I get everything set up, you'll see. You'll all have your big break." Scene 2. The pressure builds. The weeks passed, and Edward's classmates grew increasingly concerned about his lack of action. He talked a big game, but when it came time to put his plans into motion, he grew distant. One evening, during a class discussion about an upcoming film project that required serious attention and commitment, Edward was noticeably absent. His classmates looked around the room, wondering where he had gone. "He's probably busy with something important," said Mark, one of the more hopeful students who had believed in Edward's promises. "He's always talking about getting everything ready for the production company. We just have to be patient." But deep down, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that Edward was losing interest, as if his promises were nothing more than words to get them to back him up. Scene 3. The breaking point. The situation grew more dire when the group found themselves stranded on the island after a series of unforeseen events. The storm had trapped everyone, and the students were scrambling to find shelter and safety. Edward, who had once been the picture of confidence and ambition, was now visibly panicked. As the group huddled together near a rocky outcrop, trying to make plans to survive and find help, Edward looked around nervously. The weight of the situation was too much for him. His phone had no signal, and the storm showed no signs of relenting. The group's unity, which had been held together by his promises, was starting to unravel. "All right, listen up," Edward said, his voice strained. I think I need to go. I've got some calls to make. I'll find help. I promise I'll be back." His classmates stared at him in shock. "What do you mean you're leaving?" Kate asked, her voice rising. "Edward, we're all in this together. You promised us you'd be here for us." But Edward's eyes darted around, filled with panic. "I'm not abandoning you. I'm just going to get help. It's the only way." He hesitated before quickly turning and walking away, leaving his classmates behind. Written and directed by Hosam Ibrahim.